Hey, what's up, nerds? Welcome back to Guys That Magic. Today I'm joined by Hunter. Say what up, dude.
What's up?
It's that time again, man. We're doing commander upgrades for these precons. We're going to be doing the new ones coming out of MH3, Modern Horizons. And you got the privilege of doing the creative energies. So are you excited about this deck?
I am very excited. Energy is back in a big way in Modern Horizons 3. And let me tell you, we got some spicy cards to talk about.
Hunter, I cannot wait to see what you did with this upgrade. But before we jump into those additions, I want to let everyone know that we are doing upgrades for the backup commanders over on our Patreon. So down in the description, you'll find a link to our Patreon and subscribe to that. Check out the upgrade. But let's just jump into this one, man. What do we got going on?
Yeah, so the face commander for the deck is Satya, Aetherflux Genius. If you wanted to see, like Shane recommended, Kaith, if you wanted to see that direction, check our Patreon link. But Satya Aetherflux Genius is one, a blue, a red, and a white for a 3/5 legendary creature human artificer. It's got menace and it's got haste, and it says whenever it attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of up to one other target non-token creature you control. You get 2 energy counters. At the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice that token unless you pay an amount of energy equal to its mana value. So the whole thing about this deck is creating as much energy as we can and swinging in and making copies of other creatures. The best part about this is that it has haste and menace, which means it triggers immediately, and the creatures that it's copying don't have to attack either. So whatever's on the field, if it's summoning sickness, anything like that, we can copy it and make a tapped and attacking copy of that. And then if we have the energy, keep it around.
Wow. It's going to be one of those kind of decks, dude. Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. I like the commander. Well, let's just jump right into some of the additions you got going on.
Yeah, so starting with everything from this brand new set, we get a ton of brand new support cards for the energy theme. Let's talk about some of the creatures that I feel are perfect in this deck. This first one is Guide of Souls. It's 1 white mana for a 1/2 creature human cleric. It says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and you get 1 energy counter. It also says whenever you attack, you may pay 3 energy. When you do, put 2+1/+1 counters and a flying counter on target attacking creature. It becomes an angel in addition to its other types. What kind of value is that? It's insane. Every time we make a copy of something, that's triggering, and we're getting 1 life and an energy counter. So
That's nuts, dude.
the synergy with this card is fantastic.
Yeah, I would say so. If you're an energy deck and you're playing white, this is an easy include for sure.
And we can go ahead and give our commander a flying counter. Even though it's got menace, give it even more evasion.
Fantastic. Great.
Speaking of flying, we got Volatile Storm Drake also going into this list. It's 1 out of blue for a 3/2 creature Drake. It's got flying, and it says it's got hexproof from activated and triggered abilities. It also says when it enters the battlefield, exchange control of Volatile Storm Drake and target creature an opponent controls. If you do, you get 4 energy. Then sacrifice that creature unless you pay an amount of energy equal to its mana value. Take your opponent's best thing. That's what this card does.
Yeah. Take it, and then you get to keep it if you want. Otherwise, you're just getting rid of it. But I'm guessing you're going to have tons of energy, so you're probably going to keep everything.
And yes, I get it. You are giving them a 3/2 flyer with hexproof from activated and triggered abilities, but the exchange right there of just getting their best thing, getting their commander. It's not switching zones. You're just switching it on the board, so you can't steal someone's commander with this card. It's fantastic.
Yeah. It's going to be a menace, dude.
Absolutely.
So what about some other new cards you're throwing in?
Yeah, so not only creatures, we got a whole bunch of other new cards. 1 sorcery, 1 instant, and 1 enchantment. The sorcery is Wrath of the Skies. It's X and 2 white. It says you get X energy counters, then you may pay any amount of energy. Destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with mana value less than or equal to the amount of energy paid this way. Yep. We got a board wipe here.
Very flexible.
Very flexible in the way of you don't necessarily need to pay into the X unless you don't have that amount of energy. If you had a ton of energy already, just pay the 2 white and spend how much energy you want it and just wipe the board that way.
Yeah, that's nuts. I was going to say that when you got a whole thing of energy, man, this is a super cheap board wipe.
Yeah, it really is. This next one, I am shocked, was not even in the Precon because they like to put like commons and uncommons in the Precon itself. This is just a common. Should be in the precon, but it's not. Tune the narrative. 1 blue mana for an instant. Draw a card. You get 2 energy counters.
That's fantastic. That's a great cantrip.
Yeah. We're an energy deck. Getting 2 energy off of 1 mana and an extra card to let us potentially use the energy it just made for us. Why is this not in the deck?
And when did you get packs, dude?
Go get a pack. You might open it immediately because it's a common.
Exactly.
Aether Revolt, one of the original sets that had energy in it, is a name of a card now. It's 2 and 2 red for an enchantment that's got Revolt. It says as long as a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn, if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. It also says whenever you get 1 or more energy, Aether Revolt deals that much damage to any target. So here's the thing about Revolt. If we do not pay for the Satya trigger, that makes something leave the battlefield. And if you kind of do that on your end step, then make some energy on your end step, and then this deals an additional 2 damage based on however much energy. It's pretty cool little synergy there. Doesn't always happen that way, but if you get rid of something and trigger this and then just get a bunch of energy, you could start dealing a lot of damage to some people.
Yeah, it seems like the top half you can trigger whenever you can, but the bottom half, that just keeps triggering whenever you make energy, man. That's pretty good.
Yeah, man. It's a fantastic rate. You get 5 energy 1 turn. That's 5 damage to somewhere.
Fantastic. What about some cards that aren't from the new set?
Yeah, so I did mention at the beginning of the video that we did see a lot of energy support from a recent precon, which was called Fallout. And I think these two, both being Jeskai color, they just mesh together perfectly. So I am actually throwing in some Fallout cards into this deck. I'm taking the Face Commander, the Backup Commander, and one other spell. So the Face Commander was actually Dr. Madison Lee. It's blue, red, white for a 2/3 legendary creature human scientist. It says whenever you cast an artifact spell, you get an energy counter. It also has an ability we could tap it, pay 1 energy, target creature gets +1/+0, and gains trampled and haste until end of turn. You could tap it, pay 3 energy, draw a card, or you can tap it, pay 5 energy, return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. The abilities here, we are, believe it or not, still very heavy in the artifact department for our energy. So this is a fantastic include. And if we're not using our energy for anything else this turn, this can just draw us a bunch of cards. It can get our stuff back. Like I said, it's great.
Bit of a utility piece. Yeah, I can see it.
Liberty Prime Recharged is 2 blue, red, and white for an 8/8 legendary artifact creature robot. It's got vigilance, it's got trample, it's got haste. It says whenever it attacks or blocks, sacrifice it unless you pay 2 energy. It also has another ability. You could pay 2, tap it, sacrifice an artifact, you get 2 energy, and you draw a card. I know what you're thinking. You're like, if you don't have any energy, this can't do anything. Technically, you can block still. The trigger happens after you announce blocks, and then it could just go away. So worst case scenario, it should just block for you if you're going to die. But best case scenario, you're swinging in with an 8/8 Vigilance Trample Haster. And that is enough in my book.
Yeah. We're probably going to get smacked for a bunch.
Yep.
Not looking forward to getting democracy in the face.
Democracy, Liberty Prime. It's non-negotiable. Electro Siphon is 2 blue and a red for an instant. It says counter target spell. You get the amount of energy counters equal to its mana value. So a bit of a mana drain here for energy.
Pretty solid.
Yes,
if you care about energy, this is a great counterspell.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we saw our Fallout cards. What other cards we put in this deck?
So this one is a little bit more on the pricey side, but it, I think is very important when it comes to this deck. Sword of Truth and Justice. It's 3 generic mana for an artifact equipment. It says equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from white and from blue. It also says whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control, then proliferate. It's got an equip cost of 2. So whenever we deal combat damage to a player, we could swing in. And yeah, this proliferates our energy counters.
Yeah.
Something we need.
And if you're playing with white and blue, sorry, can't block.
Sorry, you can't block my guy.
Pretty good sword.
It's a very good sword.
So what about anything in the land department? You upgrading those?
We are upgrading the land department. We had a little bit of money to play with because, believe it or not, energy cards are pretty cheap, minus the fact that these prices are volatile, like the volatile Storm Drake. Yeah, pretty prices are all over the place. But these first two lands we're adding is one from Fallout. It's called Helios 1. It's a land you can tap to add a colorless mana. You can also pay 1, tap it to give yourself an energy counter. You could pay 3, tap it, pay X energy, sacrifice Helios 1, destroy target non-land permanent with mana value X. Activate only as a sorcery. Probably not going to do that third one too often because it is literally just a one-time effect. But I felt like the ability to pay into and get energy counters if you're not doing anything on your turn, I think this is very much needed.
Yeah, and like you said, if there's something that's going to kill you and you need to kill it, options there.
Yep, and we're throwing the Triome in our color as well. Raw Grin Triome. It's a land that is an island mountain plains. It can tap for our colors, so it can tap for a blue, red, or white. Comes in tapped, it's got cycling at 3. And the final 3 lands we are adding, once again, if you've seen my upgrades, you know I add these in all of them. They are the bond lands in our colors. So Sea of Clouds, Spectator Seating, and Training Center. Enter the battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. We are playing EDH, so we probably have 2 or more opponents. Otherwise, it's just a 1v1. Granted, these come in tapped if you are winning, and it is a 1v1. But Sea of Clouds taps for a white or blue, Spectator Seating is red or white, and Training Center is a blue or red. One day, we will get these in the precons because they are commander lands. Not today.
But that day is not today. No. Yep, I do all the same exact thing, man. You're going to see these same 3 lands in my upgrade.
Yeah.
Well, sorry. Not these exact ones, but you know what I mean. Cool. Well, is that going to be everything for your additions?
Those are all of my additions. Like I said, these pre-order prices are pretty volatile right now, so they are fluctuating quite often with the first 5 cards we saw. But as a time of recording, we're good.
Tell me less then, man. But now we got to the part that none of us really like doing. You had a bunch of cool cards. We got to cut a bunch of cards to make room for them. Why don't you start talking about some of these cuts?
Yeah, so first off, I want to cut some cards that do nothing with our energy theme. I just felt like they were kind of needed here. So its first one's actually a new card. It's Silver Quill Lecturer. It's 4 and a white. That's a 3/3 creature core wizard. It just says creature spells you cast have demonstrate. That's right. It's a mechanic we haven't seen in a while. If you guys want to know what that means, it's whenever you cast a creature spell, you may copy it. If you do copy it, choose an opponent to also copy it. Each copy becomes a token. So yeah, it's doing nothing when it comes to energy, and we're also helping our opponents get our stuff too. And if you know me, I do not like helping my opponent at all.
I don't either. I would have cut this exact same card.
Mirror Battlesphere, 7 generic mana for a 4/7 artifact creature, Mirror Construct. It says when it enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature tokens, and whenever Mirror Battlesphere attacks, you may tap X untapped mirror you control. If you do, Mirror Battlesphere gets +X/+0 until end of turn. It deals X damage to player or planeswalker it's attacking. It's cool. It makes a bit more artifacts for us since we are, like I told you, more of an artifact heavy deck. But at 7 mana, it's not doing the energy theme, and it's kind of the only mirror in the entire deck. So unless those 4 stick around, Mirror Battlesphere is going to get weaker and weaker.
Yeah. Makes sense, man. Get it out of there.
A couple of other creatures that I didn't like are kind of on the low energy side. First up, Aether Geode Miner. It's 1 and a white for a 3/1 creature dwarf scout. It says whenever it attacks, you get 2 energy counters. Has another ability you can pay 2 energy counters. Exile Aether Geode Miner, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. This card is very weird because it's got 1 toughness. It doesn't have any kind of evasion, so you have to swing to get those 2 energy counters, so it's probably dying to literally anything that blocks it. And it's got a cool ability where it's like, oh, if it does get blocked, you could pay 2 energy to bounce this, but you just made the 2 energy, so you're not actually getting any energy at all. It's not good.
I would call that a net 0.
That is correct. Aether Squall Ancient is 5 and 2 blue for a 6/6 creature Leviathan. It's got flying, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, you get 3 energy counters. You can also pay 8 energy to return all other creatures to their owner's hands. Activate only as a sorcery. Yeah, this is a heavy card. Don't get me wrong, it's pretty powerful, especially making you energy on every turn. But for 7 mana and to eventually pay 8 to bounce all of our stuff, that includes us too, all of our other creatures to owner's hands, they were just swinging in with a 6/6 flyer. Everybody's at 40 life. It's not going to do enough. So I felt like this just wasn't doing enough in the deck, and the things that we added are so much better.
Yeah, make room for the heavy, put in some light stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then those are all the creatures. What about some other non-creature spells?
Yeah, so we did see Wrath of the Skies get thrown into the deck, so I'm just doing a 1-to-1 swap. So the board wipe that is getting removed is Austere Command. It's 4 and 2 white. This is sorcery that says choose 2. You can destroy all artifacts, or destroy all enchantments, or destroy all creatures with mana value 3 or less, or destroy all creatures with mana value 4 or greater. Yep, our thing does all of those things, but just for however much we want to pay in energy.
Yeah. Seems like it's a lot more catered to your deck, so that makes sense.
It is, and we also have like Farewell already in the deck too, so we didn't need too many heavy wipes here.
Makes sense to me, man. Did you touch anything in the artifact department for this?
I did. I know I said we were heavy in the artifact theme, so we didn't necessarily need these ones anymore. Filigree Racer is a brand new card. It's 3 and a red for a 5/5 artifact vehicle. This is when it enters the battlefield, you get 4 energy counters. And it also says whenever it attacks, you may pay 2 energy. When you do, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains jumpstart until end of turn. It's got a crew cost of 1. That's cool, but we are not very heavy in the instant or sorcery department. So this card doesn't necessarily do too much in this deck besides get that initial 4 energy when it enters. I just felt like this card isn't needed at all.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Coveted Jewel is one of the cards that I always cut whenever I see it in a precon. It is 6 mana for an artifact that says when it enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. You can tap it to add 3 mana of any one color. And it says whenever 1 or more creatures an opponent controls attack you and aren't blocked, that player draws 3 cards and gains control of Coveted Jewel. Untap it. Why would I want my opponent to attack me to get this? I don't
I don't know. It's also 6 mana for a rock. I get it, you're drawing 3, but
you're drawing 3 and you make 3 mana, but 6 mana for something that says, hey, attack me so you can do really cool stuff. Yeah. No thanks.
No thanks.
Yeah.
All right, those are the artifacts. What about an enchantment or 2 or 3?
Just a single enchantment, actually. It's Era of Innovation. It's 1 and a blue for an enchantment that says whenever an artifact or artificer enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, you get 2 energy counters. You can pay 6 energy, sacrifice Era of Innovation to draw 3 cards. I know what you're thinking. You're like, whoa, an energy-heavy deck, plus your commander is an artificer. This seems like it would do well. And yeah, it does do well. Don't get me wrong, but you have to pay quite a bit into this to continue to do that. And honestly, it's one of those last cuts that I did. If you like this card, keep it, cut something else. But in this deck, I felt when I play tested it, this card was doing the least amount of work. So yeah, this is out.
It's one of those things where, hey, this is just your personal brew, so it's whatever, dude.
Exactly.
You didn't like it, cut it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, you added a bunch of lands. Are we cutting some lands?
We are cutting some lands. Out of the box, this deck came with 38 lands, which, whew, that is hefty in my opinion. So we are actually cutting more than we added. So the first ones that we are cutting are all of the temples. Once again, Wizards, you added the temples. Once again, I will cut them all. Temple of Enlightenment, Temple of Epiphany, and Temple of Triumph. They all enter the battlefield tapped. Always, always, always. They always enter, and you can scry 1, which is not worth it in my opinion, and they all tap for their respective colors. So Enlightenment is white or blue, Epiphany is a blue or red, and Triumph is red or white. Once again, the bond lands, they don't come in tapped. These always come in tapped. 1-to-1 swap. Count me in.
Yeah, unless you're playing a Scry like theme, I'm gonna cut these every time too.
Exactly. Azorius Chancery and Is It Boilerworks are the two bounce lands that come in this deck. Obviously Azorius and Is It, they tap for the respective colors at the same time. So white and blue for Azorius and blue and red for the Boilerworks. But I don't like these. When they enter, they always enter tapped, and they have to bounce another land that you own back to your hand. So you're kind of stuttering on mana a little bit. I've never liked these. These slow down the game a little bit, and you got to make sure you don't draw these in your opening hand, because if you do, you're going to have too many cards in your hand. You're going to have to discard down to hand size because of the bounce. So I just don't like them.
Yeah, I was surprised they weren't in my deck, being the graveyard deck, because like I would have liked to discard a card, but they weren't in my deck. Yeah, I can see why you wouldn't want these.
Exactly. They do fit in certain themes of the deck. Not this one. Demolition Field. I'm cutting out of this deck because I've never been a fan of Demolition Field. Same with Field of Ruin. So it taps for a colorless. You can also pay to tap it, sacrifice Demolition Field, destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls. That land's controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. You may search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. Here's the reason why I don't like this card. It's not really stuttering your opponent, like, at all. And I get it. I understand why they threw it into this deck. The reason is because we are going up against the tricky terrain deck, and that cares about making an everything land. And trust me, when we do these Precon upgrades, it's probably going to bite me that I'm not going to be able to blow up a land that's probably going to hurt me. But in the grand scheme of things, we're not really land destruction, so I don't care.
Yeah, I understand. I didn't cut it in mine just for that exact reason, because I know we have a land deck, but we don't want to probably do these upgrades solely based on like playing against each other. So it makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be all your cuts, man?
Those are it. Those are all of my cuts in this $100 upgrade to Creative Energy.
All right, well, we gave you the budget of $100. If we got all these cards, what do they cost right now?
Like I said, those first 5 cards, extremely volatile right now because it's being 2 weeks before the set even comes out. So prices are definitely fluctuating. But at the time of recording, if you went out and picked up all of these cards, your total is going to be $100.41. So yes, I did go over by 41 cents. But
I guess we'll let it slide this one time.
That's right.
But hey, like you said, hopefully they'll just come down once the set comes out, and this will be way less.
Oh yeah, the more packs people open, the more cards people are going to sell.
Yeah, unless you're playing the Eldrazi deck. Right on, man. Well, do you have any closing thoughts on this deck?
Yeah, closing thoughts. Pretty much what I felt when we looked at the Fallout decks. Energy support is being more abundant, and that is awesome. I think energy as a mechanic is really fun to play around with. We're getting more things that kind of take away energy counters from players, which terrifies me because a couple of these other decks that I'm playing against say remove all energy, or sorry, remove all counters from target player, which is, if you remove all my energy, it makes me sad. But energy as a mechanic is so much fun. I think Satya is awesome whenever you can copy something that has summoning sickness to make it attack right away. Fantastic. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this deck, and I can't wait to play in our $100 upgrade Precon video.
I can't wait to play this Precon Battle Hunter. If you guys liked this upgrade, like the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the rest of these upcoming Precon upgrades. Down in the description, you'll find a link to our Mox Field. You can check this deck out. You can play test it, pick up the cards. In our description, you also find links to all of our social medias. That's going to be Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all at Guys at Magic. On the screen right now, those are all of our Patreon members. Thank you guys so much for staying up to date on all of our stuff. Like I said in the beginning, if you'd like to see what they're seeing, which is going to be all the backup upgrade, check our Patreon. Links in the description. We'll see you guys in the next upgrade video. Bye-bye.
Peace.